Hey, thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. We've got our third session of our Ocean Youth Summit, which is businesses saving our oceans. So we're super excited to have some really amazing industry professionals joining us today, talking about their business journeys or working within businesses that are making change. It is 4 o'clock. I know we started a little bit later last week, so I'm keen to start on time. So the session is going to be recorded. And for anyone who's running late, we can definitely send you the recordings. So that's completely fine. Just want to make sure that we've got everybody in. All right, so we have got a little bit of a special treat. We're going to open the session with a colleague of all of ours, Tim Silverwood, co-founder of Take 3 for the Sea and now co-founder of Ocean Impact Organisation, working in this very field. So Tim, I wanted to hand it over to you to open our session today and talk about businesses saving our oceans.
Thanks, Claudette, and hello everyone. It's a shame I can't be in the same room as you all and see your faces and your reactions as we go through today's session, but I'm imagining that you're all having a really good time. You may recall or have maybe even met me in the past as I was the CEO and co-founder of Take 3 for the Sea. That's a charity that I helped build and I led for 10 years. Up until March this year, and incredibly proud of the wonderful work that organisation continues to do addressing the problem of plastic pollution. But in March this year, I did leave that role to start a new organisation. As Claudette said, it's called Ocean Impact Organisation. If you want to find it on social media, it's just oceanimpact.org. And why it's so apt to be talking to you today in this introduction is that Ocean Impact Organisation essentially exists to help people start, grow, and invest in businesses that positively impact the ocean. So World Oceans Day this year, as you know, the theme, innovation for a sustainable ocean. This session today, businesses saving our ocean. It's exactly what OIO is here to do. So what specifically are we? Well, we're building an accelerator, so an incubator and an accelerator to support young entrepreneurs, innovators and founders to turn their great business ideas into a success. And why that's so important is the more success a business that is designed to make a positive impact on the ocean has, the better the impact on the planet. And importantly, the more sustainable I think that enterprise is going to be. And that's probably one thing I would like to talk about quickly today is that the charitable approach, the traditional non-profit organisation approach is challenging. I can speak from personal experience, and I know that Claudette will have a lot to say about this as well, as will many others. You know, a charity, often it's the case, it's built to rely on grants or government funding or donations. And each of these streams can be very erratic and not consistent. So you find yourself often spending more time focused on where your next bit of money is going to come from and sometimes less on the good work that you want to be doing. Whereas the social enterprise or profit for purpose, impact-driven business model will rely on having a product or a service and a business model that can not only sustain itself, but can grow and grow and grow into the future, which means you may find that you don't have those same challenges with finding those erratic sources of funding. So that's why I've now become a strong advocate for impact-driven business to support sustainability in the oceans. So I'm sure that's going to give you all a little bit of an insight into someone like me who's moved across from that charitable model into this profit for purpose model, which is going to be very much in line with the people that you're going to be hearing from today. So I just wanted to send out props to those panelists that you're going to be hearing from. Kimberly Bolton from CARAPAC, who we've already had a little bit of work together profiling her incredible technology and innovation, turning crustacean waste into a new type of biodegradable and compostable plastic. Gabby, haven't actually had a personal interaction with you yet, Gabby, but love the work that you're doing with your incredible technology using recycled material to create very engaging and inspiring materials. And of course, Anne from MSC, who's hopefully going to give you a big insight into what's happening with overfishing in our oceans and how technology and startups and new businesses can emerge to help try and curb the plight of innocent and abundant marine life in our oceans, which is a really, really important subject area. So I'm always available. You can find me on social media at Tim Silverwood, obviously Ocean Impact Org. We just really want to help to support you and to support ocean youth to do all the wonderful, great things that you can do. I know sometimes it can be very, very tricky as a young person, seemingly facing these giant, insurmountable challenges that the planet faces. But with the support of all of us, I hope you realize that anything is possible. So go out there and do your best. And I really hope you enjoy today's session.
Thank you so much, Tim. We will be including all contact details of speakers to all our participants so they can find you and follow you and hopefully engage further in this important conversation. So thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. I've got to get off to another meeting, but I wanted to just say hello to you all and wish you the best of luck today. So thanks for having me.
Brilliant, thank you. We are going to kick off the proceedings now with the wonderful Anne Gabriel from Marine Stewardship Council, Program Director for Oceania. We have done quite a bit with Marine Stewardship Council over the years, and certainly it's an integral part of ocean youth since inception. Ending overfishing is one of the key objectives of SDG14, and you know, there are things that everyone can do within each of those objectives to be solving some of these ocean issues, and Anne is going to talk a little bit more about it today. So without further ado, Anne, I'd love to hear more about Marine Stewardship Council. I'm sure all our participants would love to hear from you too. So I'll hand it over to you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Claudette, obviously for inviting the Marine Stewardship Council to speak to the youth of today and what we think and are sure would be the leaders for tomorrow. And I wish I could see all of you, but I'm going to have to stay content with this with the computer screen that I have ahead of me. But I can feel your enthusiasm and I can feel your spirit. And again, thank you for giving us this opportunity, Claudette. You're a very strong ocean advocate, and I thank you for your commitment and certainly your vision. I mean, speaking to the youth today really inspires me, particularly with this segment of society, because I wish, you know, look, while I'm still learning so much every day, everything's something new every day, I only wish I knew all that I know today when I was your age, at your time, because then I would have thought, you know, information, as they say, is empowerment. I would have been able to do so much more, so much earlier. But I guess they have a word for it. It's called hindsight wisdom, isn't it? The other reason why I'm feeling so excited to speak to this youth today is because obviously I've got two kids. I've got a son who's 12 years old, who I think has got marine biology DNA in him. Because I remember when the other day we had some friends over, this was pre-pandemic, and I was serving swordfish on the platter, and he ran up to me and he whispered and he said, "You shouldn't be serving swordfish. They're he didn't say vulnerable, but he said, you shouldn't be serving swordfish. There are not much of them around." And thank God I had the answer for him, because I said, "You're right, son, but this one's MSC certified from a fishery that's from Queensland." And then obviously now he knows exactly the work I do. So I do have a son who keeps me on my toes when you're shopping as well. And I have a daughter who's your age, and she's in Uni of Sydney. She's doing a double degree in environmental science, no pressure there, and international relations. So for that reason, I love speaking to this category of people, because it's, I want to ensure that whatever I can do, I leave this world a slightly better place than when I came in. You know, I don't really need to tell anyone or to remind anybody about the importance of the oceans, but usually when I talk about the oceans, it's usually a reminder to myself, really, about the place the importance it plays in our day-to-day life and its interaction with humanity. And as we know, 70% of the earth is filled with water, comprises our ocean. And again, it's no coincidence that's the same composition of water in our human body. And I think it's quite uncanny when you think about it. We also know that the oceans dictate weather patterns, temperatures, and the ocean's so alive with diversity and life that 3 billion people around the world rely on the resources the ocean brings to us as a safe main source of animal protein. It's also the lowest carbon footprint compared to any other animal protein. We also have billions of communities and nations around the world that depend on our oceans as a source of their livelihood to sustain themselves. So the oceans are extremely critical. In Australia, the oceans are very closely identified with us because we use it for all kinds of recreational purposes. We use it to have a picnic by the ocean. You know, we do all kinds of water activities, from scuba diving to snorkeling to surfing. So the ocean gives us so much pleasure beyond the rational, isn't it? It's also extremely emotional. But you know, reality, behold, our waters are under pressure. As our population keeps increasing, I mean, we're expecting 9.5 billion by 2050. Obviously, there is the demand for seafood is also exponentially increasing. And as we know, with food scarcity being an issue, with issues like food security, overfishing, the latest United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization's SOFIA report, which was launched during World Oceans Day, specifically said 34% of fish stocks around the world is being overfished. So beautiful divine oceans are under a lot of pressure. Our expectations from the ocean is very, very high. We're taking more than they have time to replenish themselves. And you know, also beyond overfishing, there is the impact of fishing on marine habitats, impact of fishing with interacting with other endangered, threatened, and protected species. But don't forget, there's also the impact of climate change on our waters, what we call the degrading trio, which is acidification of our oceans, deoxygenation of our oceans, as well as changing temperatures. So all of this, you know, hundreds and thousands of reports out there talking about the impact of climate on our oceans, plastics pollution. Again, thanks to media representation like BBC, they've actually brought a whole lot of the issues our oceans are facing into the limelight. So about 22 years ago, the Marine Stewardship Council was established. It's a not-for-profit organization that was specifically established to address the issue of overfishing and to ensure that our seafood is safeguarded into generations to come. Our vision is obviously to have the whole world's oceans to be teeming with life today, tomorrow, and forever, really. So the MSC works very, very closely aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, specifically SDG14, which is about life below water. But we're also very closely interacting with the other SDGs, which is like number 2, which is about zero hunger. We also work with 17, but our core area is to address issues under SDG 14. As a result of that, the Marine Stewardship Council and our leadership representatives are very involved in influential high-level political decisions around the world. We're an active member with the annual Our Oceans conference, which was established by the US State Department. And we use that as a platform to talk about the MSC program and the programs and the solutions that we're bringing forth in terms of positive impact on our water. Just to give you a brief understanding about the MSC, it's a very scientific, science-based standard, and it takes 3 areas into consideration to ensure fisheries are then certified as sustainable. The first thing the MSC Fishery Standard looks into is the health of that particular species that's being fished. So just to ensure that a particular fishery is taking enough out of the water so there's enough left behind to replenish itself. If there's not enough left behind, then those fisheries will need to put in place specific harvest strategy rules or harvest control rules to ensure that the stock reaches a healthy biomass. The second criteria the Marine Stewardship Council looks into is to ensure that the fishing is done such a way that the marine habitats are protected and conserved, and to ensure that any interaction with endangered, threatened, and protected species, whether they're sea turtles or dolphins or whales or seabirds, that they're all being done at a minimum level, if not zero. The third principle that's looked into for every fisheries to be certified is to ensure that they've got the best fisheries management in place, because as you know, the ocean is very fluid and it's a changing environment. That particular fishery needs to put in place an ability to adapt itself to the changing environment. So every fishery roughly goes through about 12 to 15 months of assessment before they can potentially be successfully certified as an MSC certified fishery. Since we've been around for about 22 years already, we're looking at about, actually this slightly outdated number, we're looking about 16 to 18% of global marine wild catch today that's being MSC certified. And for a very, very complex sector and space that we're working with, that's quite a sterling achievement. But we're not resting on our laurels. The MSC has a vision that by 2030, we would like to see 30% of marine wild catch engaged in the MSC program. But today we're seeing some significant improvements brought about by MSC certified fisheries. We see some numbers there, which is about 1,600 improvements across the fisheries. And what happens is when the fisheries come on board, because sustainability is a journey, they need to show improvements on a year-on-year basis. And we've seen close to 900 over closed conditions that have shown improvisations on the water itself. And today we have about 370 certified fisheries around the world. Some of the changes that we've actually seen in the water as a result of the Marine Stewardship Council standard is we've seen significant increase on fish stocks. We've seen a reduction significantly on bycatch of seabirds and other species. We've seen an increased commitment from a whole lot of these fisheries on scientific knowledge and research being invested. We've also seen minimized damage on the marine habitats and the general ecosystem environment, and some effective management systems put in place. So the MSC program is no longer a theory of change, it's actually a mechanism for change that has demonstrated its positive impact on the waters in the last 2 decades. I just wanted to put some of this, Tim Silverwood just now talked about some of our charismatic creatures and how we all play a part in terms of ensuring that they continue to be present in our environment for the longer term. So some of the MSC certified fisheries have put in place gear modifications and interactions that have benefited some of these charismatic creatures. I just wanted to share that with you, from seabirds to some of the aquatic reptiles that we have here, to the elasmo branches, you know, again, beautiful, elegant creatures, as well as the habitats improvement and other marine mammals that we see here, all of which we definitely hold very close to our hearts. In moving forward, the vision for the MSC is also, now that we've done quite a lot of work in developing nations, and of course we continue to commit and continue our work there, we also realize that no man is an island and that we need to start focusing on the global south, because over 50% of seafood is traded within this geographical location. And so because in the global south there are issues such as funding, capacity, know-how, the MSC as an international standard organization is starting to focus a whole lot of our efforts in the global south, you know, anything from India to Mexico, to Africa, to Southeast Asia, and we're helping to build capacity in these markets. The MSC's philosophy is a theory of change. So while we have the fishery standard that I just described, there's a necessity for us to also inspire market uptake. So as consumers, we all have a role to ensure that when we're buying seafood that's certified and that's sustainable. And how do we know that? We know that because MSC has a process where it goes through, where it's after the fisheries certification, the product goes through what we call the chain of custody certification or long supply chain. so that the end consumer product can actually have what we call the blue fish stick. So just for an example, like I've got John West tin here in my pantry during the pandemic. I bought a lot of them and stocked them up in my pantry, but you can see there's a blue fish stick. So if you see a seafood product in Coles on its black fish counters with a blue fish stick, if you go to Woolworths, so LD and see products that's got that blue fish stick, it means that that product is actually coming from a sustainable certified fishery. It's gone through a third-party accreditation scheme, so it's extremely rigorous, robust, and credible. I've just put some of the brands here out that have come together and supported the vision of sustainable seafood around the world. Every 2 years, we also do a consumer research just to understand, you know, how do consumers feel that they have a part to play in protecting our oceans. And the consumer insights are showing us that over 80% of Australians are highly keen in particular about making sure they do the right thing and make the right decisions when they're shopping. They're also telling us that they would prefer choosing a third-party eco-label as opposed to a homebound eco-label. They're also telling us that they trust science-based organizations and not-for-profits a lot more than other stakeholder groups. So we're listening to consumers, and a lot of these insights are shared with our partners as well, so that we can create meaning out of them. And moving forward, some of the things that we want to do, obviously, is, you know, as we continue to do a whole lot of that work within the fisheries side and get more and more fisheries on board. In Australia, we have about 42% of fisheries that's MSC certified. That's sterling, and that's definitely due to the leadership of the federal and state governments that we work with. But we want to see the rest of the 50-odd% come on board as well. And for that, we need to have consumers, you know, people like you, the youth of today, to emphasize the urgency of other fisheries to come on board. We want to focus on some of the initiatives that we have in the education space. We want to continue our social digital media work in raising awareness and engaging with consumers in a meaningful way. Our ultimate goal is obviously to make the MSC Blue Fish Stick the easiest and most trustworthy choice for anyone to enjoy wild, sustainable seafood. And my last slide is this, and I happen to actually like this slide because it shows a Dutch astronaut in space who obviously has a canned tuna in his hands with the blue fish stick. So even in space, everyone's asking for the blue fish stick, so we should as well down here in our respective lands. So it's a short, compact presentation. It's, like I said, it's a rigorous standard. It's a very complex space that we work in, but I thought of making it as meaningful as possible for you today, but happy to take on any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Anne. We do actually have Liam Sharkey, who's one of our Ocean Youth Melbourne alumni, who is going to ask you a couple of questions.
Perfect.
Liam?
Hi, Anne. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on and just kind of give us a quick presentation.
My pleasure.
So yeah, I just have a few questions for you. The first one we'll start out with is, what are some of the challenges MSC have faced?
Generally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the environment for sustainability with regards to fishing and seafood is dynamic, and it's changing as we speak. Because the MSC is a program that is benchmarked against the United Nations FAO Responsible Code of Conduct for Fishes, it's also part of an international standard setting body called ICEAL. Every 5 years, the MSC goes through a process where we review the standard. We review parts of the standard in terms of making sure that it's defining sustainability in the highest benchmark. But a benchmark that's ambitious enough, but yet not too ambitious where it becomes to a point where it's not pragmatic for fisheries to meet. So I would say one of the challenges is trying to define where that yardstick is between ambitious and yet pragmatic. And I think different constituents, you know, whether it's conservation groups, the industry, the government, the regulatory environment, different stakeholders have different levels of capability to embrace that bar. So I think I would say that trying to define what is sustainable on a science-based accreditation is something that we constantly see moving, and that we're constantly seeing ourselves being challenged for. But because we're a multi-stakeholder initiative, we are able to harmonize the interests of various groups to be able to input into the process. But that in a way is a challenge, but that in a way is also a positive outcome, because it allows us to have the dialogue that we need.
Yeah, that actually makes quite a lot of sense. Okay, next question. What are some of the things you're most proud of through this whole experience?
During the whole experience with the MSC, I'd have to say the people I work with, really. And I mean that both internally and externally. I think internally, certainly the MSC comprises some really, first of all, an optimist group of people, because in a world where we're only being bombarded about the catastrophes, isn't it? All the global issues, from poverty to food security to climate change to the pandemic, it can all seem so bleak and gloomy. But I think the fact that I work with people that are not only brilliant in their own different areas, but they're also idealist in some way and optimist in many, many ways. That makes me very proud to think that, we are working for an organization that's an agent for change. We're solution driven rather than trying to just focus on the problem, because otherwise we can literally go round and round just the issues. So I'd have to say that, but I'd also say I'm also really proud of the jurisdiction in which I oversee, which is Australia and New Zealand, where I see industries coming together, I see governments coming together to do the right thing. I also have positive conversations in the business sector. So I'm also pretty proud to be a part of this, what I hope will be positive revolution.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll just do one more question. What's one action you'd like everyone to take away from this to help protect our oceans?
The thing is, I feel like we all have, somebody famous once said, we don't all have to do big things. We can do small things that we love and walk away feeling really proud of ourselves. So it's a whole myriad of activities we can do. But I would say for the youth today, it'd be, because you are engaged within the right communities, I would say use obviously the digital media platform positively. I mean, as we know, there's a whole lot of not so good content in that, but the platform itself is amazing and potentially can be harnessed to inspire and motivate change. So I'd say to the youth today, if you can spread the word around, not just about the catastrophes that we are faced with, but the solutions out there that are working. Like I said, the MSC is a program, there are many of our other programs as well, so do the research, but to be able to support and magnify and evangelize even the positive outcomes that these organizations are involved in, so that more and more people get on the bandwagon of working for solutions and mechanisms for change rather than just being part of the problem. I would say certainly that. But I'll say, that right down to the little things, that when you're going to the supermarket and shopping, like I said, look for the blue fish stick on the products that you buy. If you're going to a restaurant, ask the right questions, ask that fish that I'm ordering, where is it coming from? How would I know it's sustainable? How would I know it's not? So literally just evangelize, and I think spread the good news would be in itself a fantastic way to start.
Yes, yeah. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Very good questions, Liam. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great night.
You too.
Brilliant. Thank you, Liam. And thank you so much, Anne. Obviously, some really great in-depth and simple actions that everyone can take away from the session with you today. We're actually going to be compiling all of these actions that have come from all our speakers into a bit of a manifesto for positive action. So we'll definitely include those ones in there from yourself. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks to everyone. And again, it's a real pleasure. And I hope to see you one day face to face.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right, so we're going to get into our next speaker, which is Gabby Samkova from Summerside. Gabby is going to talk all about her entrepreneurial journey in her new business. I don't know if it's relatively new, I suppose.
Relatively new, yes.
Business that's saving oceans. And I think we've got Angus who's going to be interviewing you. Angus.
Sounds good. Maybe I'll just do a bit of an introduction before we get straight into the questions. Hi everyone, my name's Gabby. It says Gabriella. Gabby, Gabriella, it's the same. So I'm the founder of Summerside, and what we do is we make beach and travel towels made from recycled plastic bottles, which is quite interesting and a little bit different. So we'll definitely go into the questions. A little bit background on me is that I'm 25, so I wouldn't say I'm so far ahead of you. So hopefully I can provide some inspiration, as I'm sure you're all here today because you're very passionate about the environment and about protecting our oceans. And there's so much that can be done still. And so if you have some ideas, I would love to hear it. And if there are any other questions as well, please, I'm sure we can put it in the chat, and Claudette can
field them for you.
Time. Yeah, we can ask them.
Yep, perfect. So Angus, are you there?
Hello.
There he is.
Okay.
The first question I've got is, when did you know you wanted to do something to help our oceans?
When did I know I wanted to do something to help our oceans? Well, I actually lived in Bali for a year and a half, and you know, it's very different to living here, where in Australia, if you walk outside your house, you're not going to see a pile of rubbish. You know, we have nice bins. It might not go anywhere necessarily, but we have nice bins that we put it in, and we have some sort of recycling system. So I think moving to Bali and seeing how much plastic was everywhere, and in particular, I mean, I lived on an island, so I took up surfing. What else do you do, I guess, when you live in an island? And during that time, I saw a lot of plastic pollution in the water. I've never seen anything like it in Australia. I've had nappies hit me in the water. I've had plastic bags caught on my foot. I've taken chip packets out. I mean, especially during wet season, it's just everywhere. I mean, I've hiked through the forest, dense forest, to get to a waterfall, and I could still see a Coke can floating down the stream and plastic bottles. And it's insane. And their solution is to burn it, mainly, is what they do when they take it out of the water, which is also not great for the environment. So I think that was sort of the big moment where I thought, okay, I definitely need to do something. I think living in Australia, I'd always want to help, and I love the environment, but I don't know if I saw it as such a confronting issue as I did when I was actually hit with plenty of things in the water. So I think that was sort of the turning point for me.
What have been some of the challenges you've faced in trying to make a difference?
Well, I think deciding that I wanted to at first I didn't know exactly how I was going to be sustainable. I guess there were two components to deciding on my business. So number one was that I actually saw an opportunity in the marketplace for a beautifully designed sand-free towel that was large and had all the features versus, you know, your plain little blue or gray microfiber towel that a lot of you would have seen, or even a cotton towel that's just not practical to take outside the house. So I guess that was the first component. And then I guess researching into what microfiber towels are actually made of, and it's just manufactured plastic. So it's just adding more plastic to our already overflowing problem. So I think a big challenge for me was to figure out, okay, how can I make this product and still help the environment? So a big challenge was finding the material and a manufacturer, since it was relatively new technology. I mean, you can make shirts and things out of plastic bottles, but a towel was definitely something different that my manufacturer hadn't done before. So that was a really difficult thing for me. And then also, I guess, as a young founder, I have some background in marketing, and I've done little bits here and there, but there was so much to learn. I mean, when you're the founder, you do everything. You're the marketer, you're the accountant, you're the person making the website, you're the person running social media. You essentially have to do everything. So there is so much to learn, and you know, you can always be learning. I think that should never be a barrier. You should always accept that, you know, you can't know everything, and there's always going to be difficulties, and there definitely was. And then also, I guess I had to do a crowdfunding as well, since it was quite expensive, the material, and I needed a lump sum to order that large of a quantity, which was the minimum when you're dealing with new fabrics. That's just the reality of it. And if any of you haven't seen the video, you should definitely watch it. I guarantee you'll get a good laugh out of it. So yeah, I guess writing the script for that was really difficult. I had to think, you know, what people wanted, and sustainability is great, but you have to have a functioning product as well. It needs to actually do what it's meant to do. So I couldn't make it, for example, 100% made from plastic bottles, or it would have just been water repellent rather than absorbent like you need for a towel. So that's, you know, one aspect, that it's this difficulty between being a profitable business and having a good product, and also being sustainable. So you still have to have a product that people want. And I found that challenging, because I would have liked to have just made it 100% recycled materials, but you know, it takes a little bit more money into research to be able to do that as well. But yeah, there's certainly been plenty of challenges on the way. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with my Kickstarter. We raised $37,500 in a month. So it did very well. For those of you that aren't familiar with Kickstarter, it's a crowdfunding platform. So for those of you that have ideas, I definitely recommend it if you need some capital. So people invest in your idea, and they basically just pre-order the product. That's what it is. They don't take a cut or anything. They just pre-order the product if they think that it's worth it, basically, and that it's a good idea. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that.
Okay, so what are some of the things you're most proud of?
So it would definitely be the success of the Kickstarter, because I wasn't sure. I actually just needed $20,000 and pretty much raised double. So I guess it was also to show that there was an interest in the market for it as well. So it was good market research for me. And I think also, I've also been mentioned in federal parliament by Tim Wilson. He did a speech on me for paving the way for sustainability and being innovative, you know, showing that Australia can certainly do it to a larger scale if someone from the local community can make such a change. You know, the government could do a lot more. So I can also link that in the chat as well. It's a brief speech, about 3 minutes. But yeah, I was super excited about that. I don't really know how it happened exactly, but I was featured in the newspaper, and yeah, MPs, they do read the newspaper, turns out. And I guess also I'm pretty happy that I'm helping the environment as well. And those plastic bottles, so each towel contains about 8 to 14 plastic bottles. There isn't an exact number because plastic bottles are always different sizes. You have like little Coke bottles, you have large ones, so it always varies. But essentially those 8 to 14 plastic bottles are kept from landfill instead of landfill and ending up in our oceans and forests, as I've seen in Indonesia.
If someone out there had an idea to start a business that would help the environment, what advice would you give them?
To start a business? Well, I guess, you know, the hardest thing is to start. You know, people are always so scared to fail, but that's just part of it. Like, you're always going to have little failures here and there, but you learn from it. So it's never really a failure. So I think that is a really important thing to remember, because not everyone's going to love what you do and not everyone's going to believe in it. And you're always going to have negative people. I'm sure, you know, you guys are young, you're part of social media, you know, you can see it all the time in the comments. So in everything, but it's just knowing that if you really believe in your product and your business idea, then you should just go for it. You'll work out the kinks on the way. And if there are mistakes, it's fine. I mean, it might cost I made a mistake with manufacturing and it cost me, you know, another $1,000, but it's just money and you'll learn on the way. So I think that's a big takeaway. And I think also looking into sustainability grants, and I know Tim sort of briefly touched on it and sort of a little bit everywhere, but, you know, there are grants and there's Little Dreamers as well, which is another grant that can help you. I think it's one of the banks do it. So there are so many avenues you can take, or even speaking to your local MP, and he might be able to put you in touch with some people that can help you as well. So yeah, there's so much advice I could give, but I guess like the biggest thing is you never really fail, you just learn.
And then one last question from me before we go to some questions from people watching. What's one action you'd like everyone to take away today to help our oceans?
Well, I think, you know, as Anne briefly touched on as well, it's not about everyone sort of doing the same thing. For example, it wouldn't be ideal if everyone wanted to use recycled plastic bottles to make something, because then we wouldn't be recycling it, we'd just be making new bottles just to turn it into a product. So it's just doing little bits here and there. Like it's just making one conscious decision. And with over 7 billion people, if everyone makes one small choice, it's such a big impact. You know, that might be when you're out, you just say no straw, that you don't want a plastic straw. It could just be, you know, if you don't have a coffee mug, a reusable coffee mug, you know, investing in one. I think it's just making one small change, and that's what's going to make a big change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. So does anyone have any questions for Gabby?
Let me see in the chat.
I actually have a question. We don't have any questions through the chat as yet. There may be some throughout the talks. But Gabby, that's unbelievably wise and mature for someone so incredibly young going down this business journey and new frontiers and manufacturing and new materials and funding to do this. I mean, incredible. Have you got any mentors, or have any mentors helped you on this journey, or have you just done it by yourself to, you know, suck it and see, basically?
Well, my parents have been very, very helpful. So they both work in corporate environment for a big retail company. Not that it's sustainable at all, it's fast fashion, but they have a lot of business experience, and I think I've been able to bounce ideas off them, and they have, you know, so much more experience. It's just very different because they work with such a large budget with so many brands, and I'm working, you know, off the very, very base, small, I do everything myself. And yeah, it's just been a learning experience, but a lot of it has just been from myself. And I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, and I kind of always knew that I was going to do something. I just wasn't really sure what it was going to be.
Well, it sounds like you're certainly in good hands with that kind of experience around you, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of our Ocean Youth alumni and current participants are coming out with quite incredible solutions-focused projects, and part of the program now is to sort of match up with industry expertise or someone who can sort of help them nurture that idea further along. So I think mentorship is probably, you know, a really valuable thing for young people trying to sort of test new ideas and see what they can actually do in a supported environment.
Oh, definitely. Like, if I could stop any of the mistakes from being repeated that I have done for somebody else, I mean, I definitely will. So if any of you, you know, Claudette, you can send out my contact information, that's fine. If any of you have ideas, you know, don't be shy. There is no bad idea. And I mean, there's so much going on in the innovation space, and sustainability is on the rise. I mean, people are making mushroom leather and pineapple leather. You know, the further you go into it, people are doing incredible things. So yeah, there's no bad idea.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. We will be tapping you on the shoulder at some point, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
For those who just came a little bit later, I've been admitting a few people here and there. That was Gabby Samkova from her company, Summerside. And as we have done with all the past sessions, we've been recording them, and I've been sending out notes to links and key quotes and contact details so we can keep the conversations going. It doesn't just stop here. Basically, it starts here so that we can keep collaborating and networking and making good things happen. So thank you so much, Gabby. And thank you, Angus, for your questioning. That was awesome.
Yes, thank you, Angus. You did a good job.
Thanks, but yeah, thanks for taking the time out of your day to contribute to this whole collaboration.
Yeah, of course. It was great fun. Thank you.
Brilliant. So our next speaker, which I'm super, super excited about learning more about, because it's something that I had not even heard was even possible. We have got Kimberly Bolton, CEO of a company called CARAPAC. And it's, well, I'll actually let Kimberly do all the talking about what CARAPAC actually is. So Kimberly, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thanks, Claudette. I'm going to try and share my screen just to get going.
Do I need to do something here? Let me see. Do I? Oh, we got it. Oh, you got it.
And then I can just present like that. Does that work?
Yes.
Perfect. Great stuff. So yeah, I am Kimberly from CARAPAC, and I'm really focused on packaging. And one opening statement that I really want to make is that packaging is actually good, and it is a fantastic tool. It's used for, you know, protection and convenience and unitization. And it actually, packaging is responsible from saving 40% of Australia's fresh produce going directly to landfill because it's too damaged. So a lot of the narrative is more around packaging, is really about packaging waste. But I just wanted to start off with packaging is good. However, we do have a very serious packaging waste problem, not only in Australia, but across the world. There are 4 million tons of packaging waste generated by Australians each year. Only 32% of that is actually diverted. So that means it's either recycled, incinerated, or biodegraded or composted. Majority of that 30%, the 32% is actually recycled. 3 million tons of packaging waste generated each year that is not dealt with. So there is a big issue. we can recycle more, or the other route to go is more the biodegradable, degradable route, with various alternative materials. But there is also a lot of confusion around what each of those terms really mean, like what is actually biodegradable, what's degradable plastic. And so biodegradables can take up to 5 years to break down in some natural conditions. So it doesn't have to be all natural conditions, and then it does take longer to break down. They're usually made from corn starches, or even sometimes like PLA and whatnot. And then a lot of the crops to actually produce biodegradable plastics have to be genetically modified in order to actually make the materials. So there is a lot of misinformation around what is biodegradable, and degradable plastic is actually just normal traditional plastic that breaks down into microplastics quicker. And we did a lot of research into this area and saw that there was a lot of room for improvement. So myself and 2 co-founders created CARAPAC, and we have managed to develop the technology to make sustainable, durable, and home compostable plastic alternatives. So that's a picture of one of our films. I've also got another sample with me. I don't know if you can see it in the screen, but you can see it's like pretty flexible, but very strong, doesn't tear and whatnot. And this material is actually made from crustacean shell waste. So all the prawn and eat, we taking that waste source, and we managed to break it down and make it into plastic alternatives. Generated across Asia Pacific every year, so there's a huge amount of it, and that's just from frozen food processing plants. So that's only the waste coming from like your frozen prawns and whatnot that you find in supermarkets. And then we're taking that and we've developed 3 different types of materials. So a flexible one like this one over here that you can like bend and whatnot, that can be formed into a bag. We've got a cling wrap material that sticks to itself, but that you can unfold. And then we've got the semi-rigids, which you can make a tray or a punnet for, like, example, like strawberries and whatnot. We're currently focusing more on the flexible side. So your bags and like lettuces, and there's a whole range of different products. Slide. And what's really cool is it has natural antifungal and antimicrobial properties, so it can even extend the shelf life of fresh produce from anywhere to 10 to 14 extra days, which has a lot of cost-saving benefits for other companies within the supply chain. And then once you're done with your CARAPAC package, after you've, for example, eaten your strawberries or your lettuce or done with your bag, you can literally simply chuck it in the garden, and it takes 3 to 6 weeks to fully home compost. It breaks down with the use of soil microbes, but then you can also put it in a home compostable bin, or actually a green bin. So break down landfill, and once it's actually in the soil, it's got naturally high nitrogen properties, so it becomes a soil release fertilizer, which is fantastic for plants and generally improves the overall soil quality, and improves the drought resistance within soil, which is really good for countries like Australia, which is more prone to droughts. It's also ocean friendly. If it ends up in the ocean, it will simply dissolve over a 48-hour period, which is really exciting. And if a fish or turtle or whatever eats it in the interim, it is just crustacean shells, so it's a part of the natural habitat anyway. And this is just a little bit of a table for comparison that I can share with you all later. Just giving a bit of a detail of how we've broken down different types of materials within the market and how we compare on a number of different levels, but I guess we are coming in a little bit more expensive than traditional gradables, which is good. And yeah, so essentially we've developed this product that is the next level from zero waste, because we want when it is actually in the soil and when it is actually functioning as a package, it does impact positively. And it's not just made from like biodegradable materials that breaks down. It actually does good every step along the way, which is one of our company mottos. So, and the whole essence is that we're doing negative waste but making a positive impact. And yeah, those are my details, but I'm very happy for anyone to contact me if you have any other questions after this Q&A session. But it's really exciting to be a part of this sort of forum and talk to you all. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. That's an incredible innovation. Angus is going to ask you a few questions, if that's okay, post your prezzo.
Cool. So over the course of the development of your product and your business, what are some of the challenges you've faced?
Oh, so many. Well, I guess I should just quickly talk about how we started the business. I was studying master's at the University of Sydney, and there was like an extracurricular course that encouraged people from completely different faculties and different focuses to kind of come together. And we kind of chose to focus on the plastic waste issue. And then it's always very overwhelming when you have to deal with these big global issues. So we wanted to break it down and find like a really good part of the problem that we found that it needs a lot of improvement, and then researching specifically that area and how you can help. And I was really lucky. I don't come from a traditional science background. I'm more business orientated, but I've always been so passionate about the environment, and then did a bit of environmental science, but definitely no chemistry or anything. But in my team, there was someone who did study chemistry, so he was like, actually there's this really cool material that we can potentially use out of crustacean shells, and I was like, this is wild. So but actually developing the material from an idea to something that can be functional has had a lot of challenges in and itself, and you just have to keep an open mind. And one of the best pieces of advice I could ever offer is, if you're going to fail fast and learn from it and then move on. So yeah, I guess one of the there've been a number of challenges actually developing the material, and then it is a very different process in order to make it, so it's been quite difficult to find a manufacturer to pair up with us, but we have found a really good partner, which is really good. Also getting grants and whatnot, there are a lot available, but because we are such a niche product, we just miss out on a few requirements. So for example, like sustainability grants, a lot of them are more focused towards climate change, and like fossil fuel, changing fossil fuels into more renewable energy. So we don't really fit into that mandate. With waste management, a lot of the grants are more focused towards recycling, and we're not a recyclable product as per se. So it has been like, the more niche you go, the more you can do impact within that with your ideas, but it has been quite hard sourcing grant funding as well. which has been a challenge. But we're about to start engaging in an investment round, so we should get a lot of money and then start manufacturing in due course. Obviously, Corona has also had a number of issues and has delayed our timeline, but yeah, those are, I guess, covered a few challenges. There are always more that come your way, but you live and you learn and you fail fast and learn from that. Yeah.
What are some of the achievements you're most proud of?
So actually developing the film to actually make various MVPs has been a long journey for us, and we have now been able to do a tray and a cling wrap and even like little pouches and whatnot. So it's been very rewarding to actually see that this idea, even coming from like no scientific experience, can actually come into fruition. So that's been really good. I am also, so I still have the 2 co-founders, but we have 2 other people on our team, and I've been working really closely with the 2 others, and like even working in team dynamics, it takes a while to learn how you work together and whatnot, and it is very daunting going into a startup. You're always in like there's always a lot of uncertainty, so like getting the team to work around that and just be staying positive and being very resilient and training us all up together, that's also been very rewarding. Quite proud of that. So yeah. But yeah, it'll be a very glorious day when I do see CARAPAC packaging on shops' shelves. But we're getting there.
If someone out there had an idea to start a business that would help the environment, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so as I said before, if you're gonna go into it, know that you are gonna fail at something. So if you are gonna do it, fail fast, and just learn from it, and don't be afraid of failing. There's a quote, fear of failure is failure in itself. So yeah, but the number one piece of advice is, as Gabby said, is just, if you've got a good idea and you are passionate about the environment, just go for it. And you'll learn along the way and grow up really quickly. And yeah, it is actually a very exciting journey. And you learn a lot about yourself. But yeah, number one is just go for it. Number 2, fail fast.
And then finally, what's one action you'd like everyone to take away from today to help our oceans?
I mean, I would like to reiterate what Anne and Gabby said. You know, everyone can do various different bits, but I think from my side, if everyone could be just a bit more conscious of all their consumer decisions, like what you buy inevitably has a consequence, because you're either going to use it or the packaging itself is going to go to the waste and whatnot. So just being very conscious of what you're buying or what people around you are buying, and being aware of the impact that has. One of the key things with CARAPAC is, like, it is actually very difficult to live a zero waste life within the current setup of, you know, the economy and the way we live our lives. It is very difficult to be zero waste, and it is actually very impractical. You have to spend a lot of time shopping for various alternatives and whatnot. So for us, we really want to make it practical for people to make sustainable decisions and make it easy. But just being on the lookout for products like that and being conscious of your decisions going forward, that would have a huge impact.
So that's all the questions I've got for you, but thank you for your time.
No, of course.
And yeah, I'll pass back over to Claudette.
Thank you, Angus. Great job. And thanks, Kimberly. I actually did have a question.
Yeah.
When I first read about CARAPAC, I was mind blown about the amount of shell or crustacean waste that we actually have in the first instance. But then I couldn't help but think, you know, from a vegetarian point of view or a vegan point of view, does this kind of innovation actually start, I suppose what Gabby said before about, you know, we start generating things just to be able to generate another thing. Do you think we'll get to a point with such innovation and uptake of products such as this, which is incredible, by the way, is it a truly circular economy, or do we create more problems trying to use different kinds of products for packaging?
So if I were to use all the crustacean waste in the world, I would be so thrilled. There's so much of the waste to use, and we only need 5 kilograms of the shells to make 1 million strawberry punnets. And Australia itself only eats 350 million punnets of strawberries. So in order to service Australia's strawberry market, we would only need 15 to 20 kilograms of the crustacean shell waste. But that being said, that is a big concern, and we do want to make this truly sustainable going into the future. We can also source the similar, it's basically a biopolymer that we extract from the crustacean shells. We can source that from insects and also certain type of mushrooms. So essentially at the end of the day, if we do use all of the crustacean shell waste, we could become mushroom farmers and be able to make it vegan as per se. But there is so much crustacean waste, and even if you are vegetarian or whatnot, it would still be a more sustainable source of packaging, and people would still be eating those crustaceans in any case, so it is a waste source. We were initially quite concerned about allergies, actually, because people do have shellfish allergies, but basically we extract this biopolymer, and what's left is the proteins that are in the shells, and the protein is what causes the anaphylactic or allergic reactions. So that biopolymer that we use is very pure and would not cause any allergies, and that was actually one of the major points that we were concerned about initially, but have proved our own assumptions wrong, which is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I can see that, you know, buying a punnet of strawberries, and next thing you know, you got an anaphylactic shock could be.
That would not be ideal, but yeah.
No. And is anyone stocking your packaging at the moment? Is there retailers that we can support who are using it?
So not yet. We've had to take quite a bit of time to actually develop the material and spend a lot of company effort in R&D. We are setting up a pilot manufacturing plant, and then working with smaller customers to actually launch it, and then scaling it to be in supermarkets. So it has been a lot slower than a lot of other startup processes, because we've had to spend a lot of time in R&D. We started the company just with the idea, which I would recommend, but you do just need it. Every startup and every idea is different, so you need to treat it differently. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that is quite mind-blowing, the innovation that's going around packaging. I know that there are some in Indonesia that are using algae and seaweeds.
Those are great.
Absolutely. So hopefully before too long we can eradicate a significant chunk of our single-use plastics that we all find in our beaches and lakes and oceans and things, which it's All right. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining us. And
thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you, Angus, again for your questioning. It was awesome. I wanted to leave today's session. We were approached by a in the US about her young 9-year-old artivist, she calls herself, and she wanted to be part of the summit, sharing what she's doing to help our oceans in US, based in Los Angeles. So I'm going to leave our session today with a video from beautiful Aria Luna.
Hi, I'm Aria Luna. I'm 9 years old and I'm an artist and artivist. An artivist means you're an artist who loves nature and uses her art to help raise the awareness about the environment. I've been drawing and painting since I was 2 years old, and the first thing I drew was 2 little octopuses. And I love nature and the sea. I live in California and I want to make sure our oceans are healthy and safe from pollution. The ocean is super important to Earth, but many people are not aware that it's getting really sick and fast with plastic pollution and oil spills. That's why I did Fusion Tide, an art exhibit that tells the story of Bogo Mogo, a plastic monster, and the guardians of the sea who are fighting him. But they need the help of the humans, and so the question is, will the humans help the guardians of the sea, or will they just stand by and let Bogo Mogo destroy our oceans? So the exhibit has gone to a lot of different places around San Francisco, Bay Area, and hundreds have seen it, including other kids. The point is to raise awareness about plastic pollution and how we can stop it. I also made up this new element called RE5, which is the element of change. Its components are reduce, reuse, recycle, and replace, and refuse. We also have a coloring booklet you can download, and I'm working on an illustrated story about it too. Hundreds of people have already seen Fusion Tide and learned about the plastic crisis and how they can help so that the ocean can return to full health again. I have a message to adults. Plastic pollution is worse than you think. Even clothes lose little tiny fibers, and they're in our waterways and even carried by the wind all over the planet. Don't throw plastic in the garbage because it goes to landfills, and from there out to sea. Also, do not use single-use plastics and try to avoid plastic in as many things you buy as possible. If you have a company that makes plastic, you should try looking into biodegradable plastic. We have too much packaging in our products, and a lot of things don't need packaging at all, like fruits and veggies in our grocery stores. All of those changes help with saving the ocean and reducing pollution. I think art is a powerful way to get people to talk about serious things like pollution of the ocean. And I think telling stories through art is the best way to get everyone engaged in the problem so they feel good about what they can do. I'll help you read the story of Bogo Mogo and feel inspired to join the movement to protect the oceans. Thank you to the Ocean Future Fund for including me in your World's Ocean Day celebration. We all need to save the oceans together.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. As with the other sessions, as I mentioned, we've done the recording. We'll be sending it all out to participants. Not everyone could make it here today, so that we get to keep these collaborations and conversations going, because as we see, there's tons of us who are really, really concerned about these big, big issues, and united, we can all make a difference. So thanks for your time, Kimberly, Gabby, Anne, I know Anne's left, and Tim, and we will keep the conversations going. Have a good evening, everyone.